Hi guys, welcome back. This is Emergency Communications Part 2, Communications Plan. Alright, so if you haven't seen the first video, you don't have to see it first, but it is a good idea to see it first because there's certain information in it that will be pertaining to this video here. You can watch this one and then go back and watch the other one, but it just works better the other way around. Alright, so communications plan. You need to have one ahead of time. One that you can practice. Because if you practice it several times, it'll work out better in an emergency when it actually comes down. Also, if you don't have it ahead of time and the event, whatever the emergency is, it could be just a simple, it could be not a non-emergency where it causes you to use the communications plan. Like I said, any plan goes to the wind when it meets first contact with the enemy. So, but the reason you really need to have a plan is so you can stay in contact with your family, and you're not, everyone's not running. Oh no, what do we do? How we where's Jamie? Where's Betty? Where's So you're not just freaking out. You really need to do it to get the plan, and it needs to be written down. There's a saying in teaching that a person needs to hear something 3 times before they begin to understand it. So here it goes. You need to have a plan written down. You need to have a plan written down. You need to have a plan, and it needs to be written down. All right? Now, so in a plan, you need to have certain things in it. Certain things need to be considered to put into your communications plan. Here are 5 things that you really should have in there. You can have more, but these 5 really should be in there. What types of alternate communications is your family going to use? And what types? There's a lot of different ways, and not all of them are verbal. Okay. 2, what triggers the use of the communications plan? One of the things in the triggering process to consider is that you don't just trigger it because somebody has a dead cell phone. All right. It has to be an outside event that is affecting the safety of the family that you need to activate the plan for. If you are going to be using FRS, GMRS, that's Family Radio Service, or General Mobile Radio Service radios, what channels are you going to be on? You got, a bunch of different channels. Also, what type of radios? There are those that are just straight, point-to-point radios on a single frequency. There is a couple of brands out there that use frequency hopping, which gives more privacy. Frequency hopping is what the military uses, where it broadcasts for a millisecond on one frequency, switches to the next, It has a preset program of frequencies it goes through. So you need to figure out what type of equipment you're going to have for the FRS or the GMRS. 4, along the same lines, but it applies to ham radio. If you're going to use ham radio, what frequencies are you going to use? Now, a lot of people will set up a very seldom used frequency that is that doesn't use a repeater, and they'll use that as their emergency contact frequency. And sometimes, I know some people, they use ham radio all the time, and they listen to it just, to hear what's going on out there. And they'll get a couple separate little transceivers, or just probably, and even a scanner, and set it to their emergency frequency. If nobody ever is talking on it, they don't hear any sound coming out of it. And then they have their other radios set to the more common local identification frequencies where people get on and they talk a little bit and they go to other frequencies, or sometimes you'll just have a local club chat frequency. Now, having multiple radios or scanners or just receivers set to receive ham radio frequencies is good, because a lot of news does get transmitted on the ham radios. The other thing your plan needs to consider, and it really needs to have in it, is what's called a phone tree or a recall tree. So let's spend a little time on that, because that's something that most people haven't heard about or even thought about. Depending on the size of your family or your group, a phone tree is very important. And there's several different ways of setting up a phone tree or a recall tree. The person that decides the plan needs to be implemented is the originator on the communications tree. When I say they're the originator, not the ones that creates it, they're the ones that activates it. So basically, that person will call 2 people or 3 people. Each person they call will call 2 or 3 people. Once the person makes contacts with everybody that they're supposed to contact, they call back to, or I contact back to the originator, and for them to check off. This usually works when you have a small group, like no more than, say, 15 people to contact. That, like I said, that is a complicated, double checking tree. Usually it's just person calls 2 people, that person calls 2 people, each of those call 2 people, everybody calls 2 people as they go down. When you get out to the span of your tree, which is usually no more than 4 or 5 levels, then everyone reports back to make sure that everybody was contacted. So that's basically that's the military type tree, where 2, 2, 2, 2, and everyone reports back. Some of them work a little bit differently. It's the one that I like a little bit better is a very simple one. You have your first person, and in my slides from the show, I have one that says Jones Family Recall, POC, Grandpa Mac. It's a very quick and easy type of recall tree. Now, some of you are probably going, well, how are you going to call if the phones are down? That's part of the plan. There's other ways, radio, and other ways of making contact. So it could be where the cell phones are acting up and you can't get on all the time, but you can text. And this actually works really good for texting. And it's just, you text out, recall, are you okay, to each person. And, because a text sometimes, all it takes is just a split second of communications. It's, the text is sent. And that's why during Katrina, when the circuits were also busy, no one could make a call, a few text messages were getting through. In your plan for your recall, you have got to set it up and write it out, ways that it can be used, ways you're going to be able to communicate and get a recall out. Now, there's some other items now to consider for your communications plan. Some of these should really be in there, all right? An outside of area contact and the contact order for these outside of area contacts. Example, currently most of my family is in California. Outside of area contact would be my daughter in Idaho. Another outside of area contact would be my brother-in-law who's in Colorado, or my sister-in-law who's up in northern Idaho. And then I also have my sister who's in Texas. I also have another relative in Texas. Actually, I got 3 or 4 relatives that have all defected and gone to the great country of Texas. Yeah, I consider Texas another country. It's big enough to be a country. So there's different, you see I have a possibility of different people outside of the area to contact. So you need to have laid out in your plan who you're going to contact and the order. Because basically, they may not have any type of disaster, emergency, or any type of event going on that's going to cause them to implement a emergency communications plan, and they won't know about it until you call them or you contact them. And they all need to know who's first, second, third, and fourth on the contact list of people to be contacted outside. They'll all report, like if you can't get a hold of the number 1 contact, we'll say that's your Aunt Mary, and you call Uncle Bob. Uncle Bob needs to then try to get a hold of Aunt Mary, because he knows everybody's going to be trying to contact Aunt Mary first, and Aunt Mary is going to be the primary outside of area contact person once everything gets going. All right. Now we get into the little more, I don't know what to call it. All right, number 5 here on things that your plan should have is code words for regrouping location. Now, why do you need to have code words? It comes from a governmental aspect of a word called OPSEC, Operational Security. You need to have code words so you don't panic anyone around you who might overhear you and give them the idea that they need to attack you. Example, say you find out that there's something happening and you know about it, but those at the grocery store you're at don't know about it. You're not going to get on the phone right there and say, everybody, there's an emergency, you need to go ahead and go to that. No, you're going to call your person or the 2 people you're supposed to contact and call them up. Hey, John, it's butterscotch time. Code word in this case is butterscotch. And then you could to let them know that there's an emergency. Or you could have it as simple as, another one that might work and might fit into it would be something like, hey John, it's milkshake time. Yeah, it's gonna be butterscotch flavored. Or it's gonna be chocolate flavored. So the milkshake then becomes that this is the word for emergency. And then butterscotch, chocolate, or whatever. Chocolate could be, all right, there's floods, there's flooding out, we're going to lose communications. Butterscotch could be, there's a tornado coming. You can have different code words to cover the things in your plan that's going to require you to have the activation of your emergency communications plan. So code words are great for when you are in a crowd and you need to get the message out without alerting anybody around you that you are activating an emergency communications plan or just an emergency plan using communications to do it. So, all right, number 6, message drop locations. Yes, this sounds a little, James Bondish, spy-ish, 60s, we've got a message drop, but hey, message drops work, and they're a good way to convey messages if you have to bug out or you have to leave an area, or you have to so for some reason you're not going to be able to communicate via any other method, and everyone knows that if total communication is out, there's going to be a message here. message drops have a drawback that if it's not safe to go out or go to these locations, you can't use it. If your family's all out doing different things, shopping, school, work, whatever, and they're all on the way home, they pass by a certain location where you can do a message drop. That's how you'd use a message drop, and that's one way. Another thing that works on it, I'll get to that in a little bit here. That was number 6. Number 7, backup plans. You need to have backup plans in your communication plan. Because once again, no plan survives contact with the enemy. Next thing you need to have is a practice schedule. You need to practice your communications plan. Having it and never using it means that it's not going to work, because nobody's going to be prepared. No one's going to have in their, quote, muscle memory of the plan to use it. And they're going to forget things and they go, oh, okay, what was I supposed to do? I can't remember. I'm supposed to do this. And I think they remember one part of the plan, then they forget the other part of the plan. So you need to practice emergency communications. Your plan needs to have in it the what to do for long-term outage plans. So, say we have a electromagnetic pulse. That's going to wipe out cell phones permanently, or pretty much wipe. If the cell phone itself isn't wiped out, if you one of these people that have bought the prepaid, they got in the TVs and movies, they call them burner phones. The prepaid cheap bill phone with and you have it in a Faraday cage and all protected for that. You may have phones that work, but the electrical circuits of the cell towers or the switching station may be out, so you may have phones that don't work. So, long-term outage plans needs to be part of your plan. Of course, also, if you go back to the first video, the item that Steve from Corsair Trainers told us about, the GoTenna mesh, that would be the perfect thing for that. Have a couple of those in your Faraday cage backup plan. Okay, number 10. Options that I have not covered that work for you. Because you guys will come up with ideas that me and other people haven't thought of that will work for you. One of the things that, as far as that works for along the lines of code words, let me go up here one page here, is, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit here, is signals. So we'll get to that here in a second here. Let's see what's next in here. All right. Other items you might want to consider for your plan. Access to an AWS, an automated warning system, an auto dialing system, whatever you want to call these things. AWS is what the government uses, hooked up through. So basically, when I worked at DHS and we needed to get a message out, we would do what's called blast dialing, and we'd use the AWS system, and we'd have everybody's phone programmed into it, and we would just send out a quick message, and everyone would get a phone call, a text message, and an email. Boom, just like that. And if they get the phone call and they answer it, they have an option, press 1, or press 2, press 3 for, I'm at work, I'm on vacation, I'm at home. And they let us know where they're at and what's, just a little simple thing on that. And we can send information out and let them know at such and such time we are going to send out another blast message with information on what to do. So that's where AWS systems come up. Basically, it works simple if the system can't get hold of someone, it redials, automatically redials until it gets through to all three of the mediums. So it can get out a email real quick. It can get out the text message usually fairly quick. Sometimes the phone call you'll redial until it gets through to the person, because the person may be on the phone, or the system may be degraded where calls are having trouble going through. There is Facebook messaging, Instagram, Twitter, those ways of getting quick burst messages out. Of course, if the system's down, those won't be working, but those are things you need to consider of ways of getting in there where the voice communication won't work, but you can get text messaging, Instagram, little things out there real quick. Excuse me. Ham radio has packet mail, or packet email, where you can send instructions out that if the other hammer operators don't have that set up, all they're going to hear is the electronic and that's it. Whereas your other people will get a text message that way, or an email message that way over ham radio. All right, here we get to signal flags and warnings. Signal flags have always been a great way of communicating danger or things to do. For your house, people put out those little, little flags, like the koi fish flags, or the little colored flags just for, decoration and stuff. Some friends that I know of have different flags that they'll put out for different things. So they'll have some flags out there so that it looks normal, but then they'll have special flags they'll put out, like a red koi fish, which means, danger, don't come to the house, whatever. But these are things, how you want your flags to communicate the messages, that's something you have to put into your communication plan. All right? So you need to write all this down. Write all this down. You can also put out, if you have to bug out and leave and go to, across town to your brother, your cousin, a friend, family member, whatever, you put out a flag for that. All right, green flag, go to Cousin Joey's house. Blue flag, go to Aunt Mary's house. That's the way a lot of flags work. That way you don't have to put out a drop message. They don't even have to go near the house. They can just see the flag and they just keep walking right on by or driving right on by, and they know what to do. Any other ways you can think of to get messages to your family? Because I know some of you are going to come up with some really cool ideas of getting messages out there that a lot of us haven't thought of. All right? So that's something else to put in your plan, things that you guys can come up with ideas. And you'd be surprised what the little ones come up with. Some of the preteens and stuff will come up, and teenagers will come up with some really good ideas and suggestions. All right. We're getting to some old school stuff here. I'm going to try to slip a picture of this in here into the video. Back before we had cell phones storing everybody's phone numbers and stuff, we used to have emergency communication cards and contact sheets. So like on the fridge, we have a list of, father's work phone, pager. Yeah, pagers, you tell us how old this is. Alternate phones, all the different phones and stuff, phone numbers would be listed there that people use. And you also have the outside of area contact, name, phone number, cell phone number, and the list of their order of contact. They also have these in little card size, wallet cards. You fold it in half, it's in your wallet with basic information on it. Now, what happens if you lose your cell phone? all those contacts you have stored in that cell phone. Oops. So it's always good to have written contact information. So like when you get your new cell phone, you can, from your contact sheet, you just putting all your friends and everything back into it. Well, same thing happens in a disaster. If the cell phone network is down, but landlines are still working, such as payphones. Wow, younger generation, yes, there's this thing called payphones. You put coins in it, and you can dial a number, and you can actually talk to somebody. Of course, the only place you usually find those now are at hospitals, airports, bus stations, places where large people congregate. Unfortunately, that's, all the rest of them are being pulled out and done away with because people aren't using them. Although I have gone through some back countries and found some still at the little country stores and gas stations. All right, so the contact list is something you need to work on and get out there for, and have everybody use, and have a hard copy on your person at all time, in your wallet, in your purse, whatever. Because you never can tell when that phone battery is going to go dead. You may have everybody on there, you may have the phone in the hand, but it's dead and you have no way of charging it. How do you get those contact information out of there? All right. All right, so that's the basic gist for emergency communication plan. Is that the end all of it? No, because I'm sure everybody is different, and what works for one person will not work for another. That's why you need to sit down as a family and work on your plan. It's not my plan, it's your communication plan. You need to work on it and figure out what works best for you. Remember, poor planning predicates poor performance. So you need to plan for it. Okay, one other thing to do here is if you like the video, pound that thumbs up. That gets YouTube to know people like it, so they'll put it out there as a more popular video. So this will be easier to find. You really want other people to find this video. I'll explain why here in a second. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe, click that little red subscribe button. And when you click it, it'll turn gray, and then a little bell will pop up next to it. If you click on that bell, you'll get notifications of new videos as we post them. The reason you want more people to see these emergency videos, and the reason why you want to share them with your family, co-workers, friends, neighbors, others, by sharing it and getting this information out there, it means that other people have a chance to get prepared for emergencies and disasters and whatever. If they're prepared, that means they won't come knocking on your door trying to get your supplies and take them from your family. All right? So that's the selfish part. You want to share this because you're selfish and you want to protect your family. All right? So as always, stay safe, be happy, be prepared. All righty.